We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Odell Beckham Jr., Miami Dolphins wide receiver, who hasn't had the best start of the year, but I went and looked at every snap that he took this year, and we're gonna look at what's really going on with him. Obviously, the targets have not quite worked out yet. He doesn't have a catch yet on the season, but I think there was a few times where he didn't get targeted, where I thought like he was looking good, looked pretty like still had the juice left in the tank. It just didn't get the target because that's not where the play went. But I think the biggest thing with Odell is like he's just been a victim of circumstance. When you really look at this team, like he's only gotten to play one game with Tua, and that was last week versus the Cardinals. And there was a few times he was open. It's just he wasn't the first read, and the play went to Tyreek and Waddle. And he was really brought here for when Tyreek and Waddle would get double teamed, and he could be a third down option for you. And that just hasn't really happened yet because teams haven't felt the need without Tua to really double team those guys. And then last week versus the Cardinals, they weren't like strictly double teaming them. They were just sitting all over the middle of the field, so they were attacking the outside with Tyreek and Waddle. So Odell just really hasn't had the chance yet. I think it could still come. I do actually think he will see probably some games where that ends up happening and he gets his targets. It's just, I think if it was last year, he would have been much more involved in some of these games. Plus, he's really only played one game with the actual starting quarterback and with the receivers in, so and it wasn't that many snaps. But like looking at it, he needs to be better, but I do think he could get much more involved within the game if the circumstances were just better. Sometimes that just happens with a player. Like here was his first target, which ended up being an interception, but this is like not where you wanted him. You want him to be isolated. Like if you get him isolated backside of it, that'd be like totally cool. You get him on a slant. The problem is he's on their best corner in this situation, Christian Gonzalez, who's now also sitting on this, has inside leverage on the slant, and then breaks on it to get the interception. Plus, wasn't a perfect throw thrown behind him. And sometimes you just see that's an elite defensive play. Hard to put just like all blame on him there, but this has like been the problem with every target he's gotten, because there's definitely been some chances when that you'll see throughout this video. Here we see him just on some inbreakers. I do think like he's been open on some of these inbreakers. He gets one-on-one, boom, right here. If this ball's thrown, like say Huntley's looking to this side of the field, like he gets most of it for the first down, so it doesn't matter too much. But if like OBJ has gotten open on these routes a few times, and on some of like these post corners that I would like to see them attack potentially. I think this Buffalo game is a chance for it, because Buffalo has been one of the teams that has tried to double and take away over the top throws to Tyreek and Waddle. So I do think OBJ could potentially see that first catch, maybe a couple catches in this upcoming game. But like there was some opportunities that he just hasn't quite got yet. This was his second target with similar route, but it's not as open this time. Things work off script. He's not even being looked at. Then he tries to break away. There's some potential to get this ball up over there, but it's thrown back and away, and then the safety comes over to make a play late on it, so he's basically double teamed at that point. So that's just like a low percentage chance of being caught, but I feel like he looks pretty explosive still. He's obviously not what he was when he was super young, but I still feel like he looks like what he was the last couple years. Like he hasn't really lost a step compared to then. Here he was open, but I do think there's like some miscommunication type thing going on. Like him and Waddle this should not be the route combination if you look at the bottom here. Like they're working these bunches, they get him like basically running that angle route, which I do like him working these types of routes. I think that could show some potential. And he opens up this corner. Like look what he does. He gets that nickel to open up his hips. The problem is now him and Waddle were in the same space. Ball ends up going to Tyreek one-on-one anyways, but just something to keep note of. This play should have been his first catch of the season, in my opinion. Like literally Huntley is reading this down like he's looks like he's reading inside out, but this is covered better, and there's safety help over the middle. Like it's taken away. I don't know why he just doesn't come after this, throw the dig to Odell, which is open. If he throws that ball with timing, like it's a free completion, and I still feel like he can make an impact on those types of plays. This was his other completion, or other target that he ended up dropping. This was the one he probably should have caught, but I don't really understand why they threw this play anyways. It was like 3rd and 20. This drop didn't matter in the context of the play in the game. I'm just not sure why they were trying to throw a slant, because best case scenario, this gains you 7 yards and you still punt, and worst case scenario is ball is misthrown or ball is tipped up and dropped, and it goes for an interception. I just feel like, that's a play where you got to hang on to it if you're Odell, but like in the context of the situation, it doesn't really matter. But not something I'm super concerned with Dross, because he has very good hands, like, overall. These are the types of plays I want to see, where the Dolphins get, like, kind of, in these tight formations, they're bunched up. You have Odell inside release on a nickel, and then break, because they run a lot of in-breaking routes. But I think Odell has this full route tree where he can do this type of thing and then still break to the outside on a corner route. We saw the Dolphins complete something similar to Cedric Wilson last year. I believe it was even versus the Bills in one of the games. Like, they've ran this a couple times where they run the corner. I think Odell could find this open, because there's usually a lot of space at the boundary, especially when the Dolphins see single high. With Tua, I would like to see that get targeted, because he definitely gets open on that play. Here is like his 4th target of the season that gets just a good play by the nickel one-on-one. They try to work that similar concept where they get him like this option round break to the inside, working, out of this bunch off of Tyreek, and it just gets, knocked away. Throwing a little bit behind, like, I'm sure if it's like, it'd have to be like perfectly thrown out in front for Odell to make a play at the catch point, but he wasn't really open. So just another play where, like, all of his targets were not the best routes, I think, to throw to him. So that's unfortunate, where he was like the first read that they covered it up pretty well. But here you get him in the slot. Odell as your number 1. You have Waddle to the outside. They go cover 2. I kind of like when these guys are working vertical, because look at the threat it puts on the safety here, because you can still have Tyreek on the backside. He's in the square of defenders. Like, he's in a rectangle right here of defenders. And you have decent, now that these are both working vertically, you kind of have, if he was, like, obviously he starts to feel some pressure and escape, but if he had time and just read the safety, he could really make this throw either to, over the field to or to Odell, or potentially put this in the whole shot to Waddle. He just doesn't end up taking either because it wasn't there. But as you can see, this wasn't, like, right here, he's in the middle of the field. They put him in the slot, which in the past you might have seen like a Tyreek here and have him just sit. But he ends up taking a lot of players here because the Cardinals were focusing middle of the field. And it just isolated Tyreek and even Waddle one-on-one to the outside, and they get their conversion there. So there was just like little plays like this, I think, where there's a reason Odell didn't have a chance. But even like the Dolphins had a ton of 3rd down conversions, but a lot of them with the easy ones went to Jonnu. You could tell like Jonnu and Odell were the quick and easy options, because Odell also sits over the middle of the field here. It just went to Jonnu. There was another similar play where Jonnu got a quick out and Odell was running the quick slant. It's just Jonnu had a better look pre-snap with guys playing with more depth. Odell was just naturally taken away here because of this guy's leverage based on where he was aligned pre-snap. So Jonnu just got those targets I think that Odell could potentially get if the looks are better favored. This one was like one of the few misses he had in this Cardinals game. He didn't have too many where he was late finding Tyreek. But I kind of like the concept of you having, Waddle working over on the crosser with the Odell running the post behind it as the number 2. And then you have Tyreek running the streak vertically. Like, someone's going to get open. And look at the attention Waddle gets, like, with this safety. If this ball was able to be thrown, like, I mean, this would be an insane throw if he threw this to Odell, because this guy could still potentially open his hips to it, but he is driving on Waddle. There was some potential there for Odell. I mean, you take that one-on-one to Tyreek all day. But even then, like, here's a play where Odell was open. He gets Waddle for the 1st down, so you're, like, not mad about it. Like, a lot of these where Odell had potential to make a play, they completed it for a 1st down on the other side. But here, he sits down, is open, versus zone. I think, him running these routes, just need to get more on the same page with Tua, build a chemistry. I think there's still potential for him to go out there and make some plays. Here he is in the slot. A potential touchdown, actually. This was the Waddle conversion that they had on 3rd down. Really good throw, really good play from Tua. But if you watch Odell, he gets one-on-one and just breaking across the face, on this crosser with no safety help. He has a step on this guy. If Tua throws like a perfect throw, it's just probably a touchdown right there. That is unfortunate. Like, a lot of these opportunities, they were all completed elsewhere, so it's like you're not mad about it, but there was like chances where Odell might have been your best option and he just wasn't the first read. Like here, this 3rd down conversion to Jonnu at the end of the game where Tua is reading this side of the field, it's not open, comes back to this. If he went away from Jonnu, he had Odell on the 7 stop if you watch him. He runs the squirrel route where he breaks to the outside and then sits down in between the triangle defenders. If he throws that ball and he's reading this side with anticipation, boom, that gets completed in a lot of situations, usually with Tua. It's just unfortunate that he was reading the other side of the field and then came to the middle. That Odell doesn't get, the opportunity to finish that. So there has been chances, I think. It's just all of his best looks have been when he's not targeted, and a lot of his worst looks have been when he was targeted. So I do think circumstance matters. You're playing with. He only other than the Cardinals game, he only played with backup quarterbacks, and the Cardinals game wasn't really necessary, I think, to succeed. Just with Tyreek and Waddle were open, and they weren't really pushing the ball downfield quite yet. I think that opportunity. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes in this Bills game. I'd probably put money on his first catch comes in the Bills game. What it ends up being, but I think Tua is going to take some chances there. Just knowing how Buffalo usually likes to play the Dolphins, I'm imagining Tyreek's going to get a lot of focus, and then usually Waddle gets a ton of work. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see Odell start to feed into that as well. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe.